1 glass and 5 minutes. That's all it takes. For years, older adults were told that only cough syrups or suppressants could calm their lungs. But those quick fixes often do more harm than good, locking mucus inside, weakening immunity, and leaving people more vulnerable than before. But today's episode is hopeful, because you'll uncover a single natural drink that clears phlegm, frees the airways, and protects you without the hidden dangers of harsh drugs. Welcome back to the Senior Health Podcast. Today, we're exploring how seniors can safely remove mucus from the lungs using everyday foods and remedies that research has shown to thin phlegm, fight microbes, and support the immune system. Because according to the National Institutes of Health, more than 15 million adults in the United States are diagnosed with chronic respiratory conditions, and rates climb sharply after the age of 60. Misunderstanding those symptoms often leads to years of unnecessary coughing, reliance on suppressants, and delays in addressing the real problem. And sitting across from me today is someone who has guided patients for over a century with both science and compassion. At more than 100 years old, still practicing medicine, he remains Japan's oldest physician, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara.
Thank you, John. It is always a privilege to speak with you and with our listeners. But let me ask something directly. If a remedy only suppresses the cough while leaving the mucus stuck inside, are we truly helping the patient at all?
That's a sobering thought, Doctor, and I think many of our listeners can feel the weight of that question in their own lives.
Because here is the hidden danger. Suppressing mucus without clearing it often prolongs infection, drains immunity, and leaves seniors believing their decline is inevitable. This problem is not rare. It is common, but misattributed to age instead of misguided treatment. Families watch their loved ones struggle, never realizing that the so-called remedies are silently making things worse. In today's episode, we'll uncover a simple 3-ingredient drink that helps break up mucus, plus supporting strategies like lung exercises and the right food choices. We'll talk about why onions, honey and lemon can act as nature's expectorants, and when to add apple cider vinegar or ginger for extra strength. And by the end, you'll know not only what works, but how to adapt it safely, so breathing becomes steady and strong again.
I can't help but think back to my Uncle Harold. He used to rely on over-the-counter cough syrups that numbed his throat, but his chest stayed heavy, and eventually he ended up with a full-blown infection that took weeks to recover from. At the time, he thought the constant cough was just age catching up with him, but looking back, it was clear the treatment was only masking the problem.
John, his story reflects the experience of so many. Seniors are left battling both the illness and the effects of the wrong fix, never realizing a gentler path was available.
And that's why I'm eager to dive into the heart of today's conversation, starting with the very first ingredient in this natural remedy, the humble onion, and why it might just be the most powerful lung cleanser hiding in plain sight.
Onions are one of nature's most reliable expectorants because they naturally thin mucus and help the body move it upward and out. They are rich in sulfur compounds that act much like gentle solvents, breaking apart congestion without irritating the airways. And unlike many over-the-counter drugs, they also provide quercetin, a natural antihistamine that calms inflammation rather than just silencing symptoms.
So in a way, the onion isn't just clearing mucus, it's also settling the immune system at the same time.
Exactly, and that dual action is why onions have been used for centuries in both Western and Eastern traditions. Modern studies confirm this, showing that quercetin helps regulate allergic responses while sulfur compounds loosen phlegm.
That makes me wonder, do seniors really need to eat onions raw to get this effect, or is there another way?
Juicing or grating them is even more effective because it releases concentrated onion juice. Just a tablespoon of that juice carries the active compounds, making it a practical choice even for those who dislike eating them raw.
And I imagine that small amount makes it easier for seniors with sensitive stomachs to tolerate as well.
Yes, John, the dosage matters. A spoonful of juice diluted in water is gentle but powerful, far less likely to cause discomfort than forcing down a large raw onion.
That feels like an important distinction, because many listeners probably imagine they'd have to endure the taste of whole onions to see results.
It's a common misconception. In truth, the method of preparation, grating, straining, or juicing unlocks the benefit while keeping the remedy manageable.
It's remarkable, doctor, that something as simple as a kitchen onion can compete with pharmaceutical expectorants, especially considering how many seniors rely on those without realizing the risks. And I think this sets us up perfectly to talk about the next piece of the remedy, honey, because that's where the onion's sharpness is balanced and its power supported in ways that go beyond flavor. Shall we open that door?
Honey complements onion beautifully because it works as both a natural expectorant and a soothing coat for the throat. Its antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties mean it doesn't just ease coughing, it actively helps fight the very infections that create mucus in the first place.
That makes me think, how is honey able to act almost like medicine when it's technically just food from bees?
Bees gather nectar from a wide range of flowering plants, and that variety packs honey with enzymes, pollen, and compounds that strengthen our immune response. Manuka honey, in particular, contains methyl glyoxal, a chemical proven to inhibit bacteria and promote healing.
So would you say all raw honeys help? Or should seniors focus only on the more expensive types like Manuka?
Any raw honey provides benefit, though Manuka offers that extra potency. The key is avoiding overly processed honey, which has been heated or filtered until many of its protective compounds are gone.
It strikes me that what you're describing isn't just about coating the throat, it's about creating an environment where healing can actually begin. And that makes me want to look closely at the third part of this remedy, lemon, which seems to play a very different but equally vital role.
Lemon brings a sharper dimension to this remedy because its citric acid helps break apart thick mucus, while its vitamin C strengthens the immune system's ability to fight lingering infections. For many seniors, that combination means phlegm becomes lighter, easier to expel, and less likely to return as quickly.
So the lemon isn't just about taste, it's actively changing both the mucus and the body's defenses.
Exactly, John. The sourness signals the body to increase secretions that thin and move mucus upward. At the same time, vitamin C works at the cellular level, protecting immune cells from fatigue during an infection.
I imagine some listeners with reflux may worry citrus could irritate them. Does that mean they should avoid it altogether?
Not always, because timing makes a difference. Taken in the morning with water and the other ingredients, many seniors find it tolerable, and if reflux persists, the lemon can be reduced or substituted without losing all the benefit.
That's reassuring because many people fear they must follow a recipe exactly when in reality, personalization is what makes these remedies safe. And it naturally raises the question of what happens when we put onion, honey, and lemon together, how their individual strengths blend into a single, more powerful drink.
When onion, honey, and lemon are combined, they work in harmony. Onion thins the mucus, honey soothes and fights infection, and lemon lightens and mobilizes the phlegm. It becomes more than 3 ingredients. It is a coordinated response that respects both the lungs and the immune system.
That makes me wonder, does the way we prepare or time this drink change how effective it is?
Yes, John. Preparation is crucial. Mixing the juice of onion with raw honey and fresh lemon in warm water and taking it 2 to 3 times daily allows the compounds to act steadily rather than in a single harsh burst.
It strikes me that what you're describing is less of a quick fix and more of a steady rhythm, and that's a perspective many listeners may not have considered. Which makes me think we should also talk about the optional boosters like apple cider vinegar and ginger that can adapt this remedy for different needs.
Apple cider vinegar can be added when extra antimicrobial support is needed because its acetic acid helps create an environment that discourages harmful bacteria. Ginger, on the other hand, provides warmth that loosens mucus while calming the spasms that make coughing so exhausting.
So it sounds like these boosters aren't mandatory, but they give flexibility depending on how severe the congestion feels?
That's right, John. They make the remedy adaptable. A senior with a mild seasonal cough might not need them, while someone with thicker mucus or frequent infections could benefit from the extra edge.
It's interesting because what you're really describing is a toolkit, a drink that can be adjusted rather than a rigid recipe. And it makes me think this is the perfect moment to step back and consider how movement itself through breathing exercises can work alongside these ingredients to clear the lungs even more effectively.
Breathing exercises are as important as the drink itself because they physically mobilize mucus from the lower lungs, where it often gets trapped. Alternating between deep chest breathing and diaphragm pumping creates pressure shifts that move secretions upward, making them easier to expel.
That makes me wonder, why do so few doctors emphasize these simple lung exercises when they can be done anywhere without cost?
Because we often prioritize medications over movement, even though the lungs respond best when engaged like muscles. Gentle, repeated practice not only clears mucus, but also strengthens the breathing capacity that tends to decline with age.
It's striking to think how many seniors feel powerless against a stubborn cough when something as basic as mindful breathing could give them back a sense of control. And it connects naturally to another overlooked food that helps pull mucus from deeper tissues, the radish, which has been a trusted remedy across cultures for generations.
Radishes hold a special place in respiratory health because their natural compounds penetrate into deeper tissues, helping to draw out stubborn mucus. They also have a mild pungency that stimulates circulation in the chest, encouraging the lungs to clear themselves more efficiently.
So are radishes meant to be eaten raw like a food or prepared in some special way as part of a remedy?
Raw slices are effective, but juicing them or grating them into warm water can intensify the effect without needing a large quantity. For many seniors, even a small daily portion is enough to feel their breathing lighten over time.
It's remarkable how foods as ordinary as onions, honey, lemon, and even radishes can outperform the syrups many of us grew up trusting. And it brings up another important angle. What about when the cough is dry, with no mucus at all? I think our listeners would want to know how that situation changes the remedy.
A dry cough is very different from a mucus cough, because there is no phlegm to expel, only irritation. In those cases, calcium often provides quick relief by stabilizing the nerves and muscles that trigger coughing. This is why even certain blood pressure medications, called calcium channel blockers, list coughing as a side effect, because they interfere with the body's natural calcium balance.
That makes me think, are you saying something as simple as a mineral could calm a cough when drugs sometimes make it worse?
Exactly, and that is why recognizing the type of cough matters so much. If it is dry, calcium can help, but if mucus is present, the onion honey lemon remedy remains the better choice.
So seniors should be careful not to lump all coughs together, because the underlying causes can be completely different.
Yes, and that misunderstanding often leads to wasted time and frustration. When people suppress a mucus cough or treat a dry one with expectorants, they end up chasing the wrong solution.
And I suppose that confusion explains why so many families assume persistent coughing is just age, when really it may be a mismatch of remedy and condition.
Correct. And it is a mistake that costs seniors energy, comfort, and sometimes even safety. Knowing the difference equips them to respond wisely instead of helplessly.
That's such a vital distinction because many of our listeners have probably faced weeks of coughing without realizing they were using the wrong treatment. It shows how easily a simple oversight can spiral into a bigger health burden. And it points us toward another important area we need to cover: safety considerations, because even natural remedies have exceptions, and understanding those is what keeps these practices both effective and trustworthy.
Safety is always the first concern, John, even when we talk about natural remedies. Seniors taking medications for blood pressure, diabetes or thyroid conditions need to space out this drink by at least 2 to 3 hours, because fiber or acid can interfere with absorption. And for those with swallowing difficulties, the ingredients must be fully diluted so they glide smoothly, never thick or sticky.
That's important because many people assume that natural automatically means risk-free.
Exactly, and that assumption can be dangerous. Even honey, which is generally safe, is not appropriate for infants, and too much citrus can irritate reflux in sensitive adults.
So personalization is just as critical here as with any prescribed treatment.
Yes, every body is unique, and remedies that feel gentle for one person may feel harsh for another. That is why we start small, observe carefully, and adjust according to the body's signals.
I can imagine that the same advice applies to seniors managing diabetes, since honey and fruit contain natural sugars.
Correct. Moderation becomes the safeguard. A teaspoon instead of a tablespoon, or choosing low glycemic fruits, allows them to benefit without spiking blood sugar.
And that helps reframe the whole conversation. This isn't about forcing one recipe on everyone, but about adapting it so it fits into each person's life.
Yes, John, remedies endure when they are flexible. When people feel ownership and safety, they are more likely to continue long enough to see the results.
That really drives the point home, because so many seniors give up after one bad experience, when really it may have been a question of timing, dosage, or preparation. It reminds me that healing often comes from adjusting, not abandoning, and that mindset opens the door to the final and perhaps most uplifting part of our discussion: your closing wisdom on how consistency can transform these simple steps into lasting health.
The lesson is clear. The body responds best to rhythm, gentleness, and respect for its signals. Consistency in these small daily practices always outlasts dramatic fixes.
That resonates so deeply, Doctor. Before we close, could you leave our listeners with one clear line they can carry into their own routines?
Of course, John. One line of wisdom is this: a gentle step repeated every day is stronger than a harsh cure taken once. And that is the path to resilience in both lungs and life.
That's a lesson worth repeating. Friends, what we've learned today is that lung health doesn't require harsh drugs or endless cough suppressants. It requires simple, natural steps that anyone can follow. If you finished this episode, let us know in the comments. We'll be happy to share the recipe with you.